All right, let's just jump right in because, wow, what a week for Palantir. We're talking about one of the most talked about, most watched tech stocks on the market, and it just had an absolutely monumental week. It's all fueled by a massive bet on its AI dominance. So we're going to break down exactly what went down, what it all means, and what the thinking is for investors right now.
So where does this all start? Well, it kicks off with this number, $160.89. That's the record intraday high Palantir stock hit on July 25th. That's a huge signal of momentum right there. But you know, a soaring stock price is really just the symptom. The cause? Well, that comes down to an even bigger number.
And that brings us to this, $10 billion. That is the value of a landmark U.S. Army contract that absolutely sent shockwaves through the market. This isn't just another deal. It's the kind of agreement that completely redefines the scale of Palantir's future. And it's the headline story we're unpacking. So you've got this record stock price, you've got this $10 billion deal. I mean, it all adds up to a truly record-breaking week for Palantir. It was one of those moments where several huge events all came together at once to just fuel this incredible rise. And the good news, it just kept coming, like a flood. I mean, besides closing the week up and hitting that staggering 110% gain for the year so far, the metrics underneath were just flashing green. Investors Business Daily gave it a perfect 99 out of 99 technical rating, which is basically a sign that the big institutions, the big money, they're piling in. But this wasn't just random market hype. It was all driven by two bombshells, landing the largest contract in the company's entire history, and then, on top of that, getting a brand new overweight rating from the analysts over at Piper Sandler.
Okay, let's unpack that Army deal for a second, because this is the real game changer here. We're talking about a massive 10-year agreement, and what it does is it takes almost 75 separate existing contracts and rolls them all into one giant deal. Now, for the Army, this is great. It simplifies everything. But for Palantir, this is absolutely crucial. It deeply entrenches their technology right into the heart of the military for the next decade. It basically makes them the indispensable part.
And right when you think the story can't get any bigger, Wall Street decides to pour some gasoline on the fire. Piper Sandler kicks off their coverage of the stock with a super bullish overweight rating, and they slapped a $170 price target on it. Their whole take? They're calling Palantir a secular AI winner. And what that really means is they believe the company is set up for huge long-term growth, riding this unstoppable wave of artificial intelligence. So with all this amazing news, you're probably thinking it's a slam dunk, right? Well, not so fast. This is where we get to the core conflict, the classic battle that every single investor is trying to figure out right now. The bull case versus the bear case for Palantir. Let's just lay it all out. On one side, the bull case is incredibly strong. You got that historic Army contract, a big thumbs up from Wall Street analysts, and that perfect institutional momentum score. But on the other side, the bear case is pointing to some really serious clouds on the horizon. First, there's the rising threat of competition from absolute giants like Microsoft. Second, the stock is basically priced for perfection, which means there's zero room for any mistakes. And finally, its valuation is already way up there at a significant premium, which creates a really high bar for the company to clear. And let's double-click on that competition point for a second, because this is a huge plot twist. There are reports that Microsoft, teaming up with OpenAI, is looking to come directly after Palantir on its home turf, U.S. government AI contracts. I mean, when a titan like Microsoft decides to step into the ring, it fundamentally changes the entire risk equation. And you can bet that's something investors are watching very, very closely. Okay, so you've got this intense tug of war between the bulls and the bears. So what on earth are you supposed to do with all this information? This is where we get into your investor playbook, translating all this analysis into some potential strategies based on how long you plan to be in the game. So here it is. The big question, the one everyone's asking. With the stock flying high, a massive new contract in the bag, but with huge competition looming and a pretty steep valuation, what do? Is it time to buy, sell, or just hold on? Well, the analysis from our sources suggests it really depends on your timeline. All right, here's how the guidance from the source material breaks down. In the short term, say over the next week, the call is to hold. The thinking here is the stock is already near its peak, so you might want to wait for a little pullback.
maybe down to that $152 to $157 support level. Now, in the medium term, looking out 1 to 3 months, the strategy shifts to buy on dips. The idea is that all this momentum from the contract news could actually push the price up towards those analyst targets, in the 170 to 178 range. And then, long-term 6 months or more, the view is to either hold or accumulate. The fundamental growth story is still strong, but those key risks are still there. Investors have to keep a close eye on that competition and that premium price tag.
So after a complete whirlwind of a week, record highs, monster contracts, and brand new threats, it really all boils down to one single, massive, $10 billion question about what's next for Palantir.
And here it is. Can Palantir actually defend its government fortress against giants like Microsoft, while at the same time growing its commercial business fast enough to justify a valuation that already has so much good news baked in? That is the central challenge. And the answer to that is going to tell us whether this pivotal week was the absolute peak or if it was just the beginning of a whole new chapter. Thanks for joining us.